Hello, all my fellow Squatchers. Welcome to another week and another episode of Echoes of the Timberline. My name is Eric. I am your host. And this week, I have the awesome opportunity to interview and talk with my good friend, Natalie Smearman, who is from Relic Films. So, everybody, please welcome Natalie. Welcome into the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, I actually got to hang out quite a bit last weekend with Natalie at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, and it was a wild ride.
Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. And I volunteer for Gather Up events for the last 2 years, and this year I'm a vendor, and so it's a little different perspective. But it was amazing to see all the people there. We were packed for hours and hours, and we didn't get a break to even eat until after 2 o'clock. So it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And just the vibe was just like crazy. Like everybody was just so excited to be there, and um, getting just being able to hang around RPG. His
Yeah.
energy alone is just
Oh, I
you
know.
can't even match his energy no matter what you do.
At any time of the day, he is on 24/7. He
Yeah,
is infectious in a good way.
yeah, 100%.
And it's I got to see a lot of people there that I haven't seen, and I'm going to sneeze. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. Sorry.
Plus,
So I got to see so many people that I haven't seen in a very long time, which was really awesome. And got to hang out with some folks and meet some new people too. I have never met Cliff Barackman, and I got to hang out with him and have dinner with him, which was awesome. So that was a really good time.
yeah, yeah, and so one of the things that I found really amazing is that so many different teams that were there. I mean, you got Mid Florida Bigfoot Research, you got Squatch NFL, Sasquatch Origins, and just numerous other individual teams that didn't even have a booth. Uh,
Right.
this past year, like myself, I didn't have a booth. This was my first time being up there at the conference, and so it was really interesting listening and kind of learning the different methodologies of researching
Yeah.
that each individual team does, and no team is ever the same.
No.
And so there's always a different aspect to researching and investigating, and that kind of ties into what we're talking about tonight is like the different methodologies of research and investigation, especially like when you're out in the field.
Yeah.
And I know that you're out in the field a lot. Like, I see you on Facebook, and you're always like posting. You're out in the woods, and you know, uh,
Yeah.
so other than Relic Films, which we're going to get into, but so as a field researcher, what do your own personal view on, like, how do you specifically research and invest? Like, what point of views do you take when you're out in the field?
Yeah. So what we normally do, or what I normally do, is take a look at certain areas of where I want to focus on. So if it's here in Florida, I'm going to really hyper focus on areas of higher activity, places where people don't normally go, and then go there in times where nobody else is there. And so that's when you're going to get the most activity. I also have experimented, and this is stuff that we share within groups. If something works for me, I'm going to let Marie know, or Mike know, or, Brooke know. I'm going to let them know, going, hey, this just worked. You may want to try this. So we do share information, which is really good. And so what I've started to experiment with is different types of scents. So we had learned, and we had studied in one area of Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky that there were a lot of attacks, unexplained attacks over the last few decades. And there were a couple of reports that noted that the people getting attacked wore heavy colognes. So we started to experiment with heavy colognes, but specifically ones that had pheromones in it. So you've got your Obsession for Men. Victoria's Secret has one called Tease. And I went out and got those colognes, and I also got a musk. So if we are investigating in an area that we're going to be in for a period of time, I'm going to go and use those scents around to lure them in. And so far, it has worked every time. It will draw them in.
Well, and you know,
as well as, yeah, go ahead.
That's interesting, you know, that you say that, because I remember specifically, and, you know, this is kind of going in line with, you know, Dr. Maria Mayer, Russell A. Gordon, and them from Expedition Bigfoot. They actually employed that tactic via drones, and they got several active hits, like on their thermal imaging, and they were able to find a couple of substantial prints. They found some tree structures during that time when they were doing the experiment. So, you know, that's the second time that I've heard scents or perfumes being integrated into doing an investigation.
Yeah. And it was, we didn't know if those specific scents were going to work, because I know in Expedition Bigfoot, they use the actual pheromones in a container in a drone, where here I am just using what I found in the mall, you know, that had pheromones in it. And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but it did. And so, and also what we did is I went to the dollar store and I got brightly colored fabric dog toys. And then I sprayed the dog toys and tied them to trees around base camp, because our goal was to bring them into base camp. We had them in a base camp every night. And so we were not only just hearing them, but they were hitting the campers. They were clanking rocks. They were whistling. They were grunting. 2 nights we went out on investigation and left one person there for a security, and they started coming in growling aggressively. And this was Martin Groves and Jim Powell. Jim was on one night and Martin Groves was on the other. And Martin was like, they were coming in, and he goes, they were aggressive because they wanted some food. But when we were as a group, they weren't aggressive. And I think they were more or less all growl, no bite, you know. I think because nobody got hurt, nothing was damaged. I got growled at more than once in base camp, but it was more or less a warning, like, we're here, you stay over there and we'll stay here. And then another thing that we used is urine, female urine. And that worked as well in an investigation.
Nice. Well, I know that, you know, because I grew up hunting in the woods pretty much my whole life. And you know, using one of the things that I used to use was doe estrus, and you know, the essentially it was meant to draw in the big bucks. So you know, if we can correlate that, it kind of, you know, goes hand in hand. It's just obviously different species, right? But so I find it interesting. So with scents, that I'm wondering who originally had come up with the idea to use scents. Like, was it a Native American thing? Was it, you know, just willy-nilly? Like somebody was like, hey, let's just try this, you know, and see if it works. I've never actually delved into that as far as, you know, the backstory behind doing any type of scents or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know it works. So we again used Obsession for Men, Jovan Musk, and Tease from Victoria's Secret, and that all worked. And we sprayed all three of them on the dog toys. Each one of them, each dog toy got all 3 scents and hung it up, and worked like a charm. So if anybody out there wants to try that, go out and get those scents.
Nice. Yeah, I may have to do that.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned like Dollar Tree toys that you put. Is that sort of like in line of like gifting? Because we know that gifting is a huge thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about it. It goes all the way back to Native American folklore and tradition. Is that kind of where you were leaning towards as far as the gifting of that, or?
No, I was leaning more towards attraction, and it
Okay.
was something brightly colored. It was going to smell some like, ooh, I want that, or let me come in a little closer. And so these are the things that I was targeting. And when I approached Greg Ogles, who owns Relic Films, I said, listen, I have this idea. What are your thoughts? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, and then as we got in and set up base camp, he goes, I want to bring them into base camp. I said, well, then let's set this up around. He goes, yeah, let's do it. And when we did it, after we did it, it was, they were coming in, they were attracted. So, and they really, I mean, in my opinion, they weren't aggressive. Even though they growled, it was more of like, hey, I'm here. I'm letting you know I'm here.
Yeah. So now, kind of shifting gears a little bit. Obviously, we're talking about Bigfoot, but you do a lot of, for lack of a better term, a lot of storytelling with Relic Films.
Yes.
And I've actually had the opportunity to watch a couple of them. It's really cool stuff.
Good.
And I was actually drawn in. I was like, oh man, I gotta watch more of this. So, so where did where did your passion for Bigfoot start? I mean, you watch uh, you watch all these different things, and I know you guys don't just focus solely on Bigfoot.
Right.
There's different things like the Dogman
Mhm.
or the, Mothman, all these different myths and legends. But what really got you into the Bigfoot lore and wanting to investigate and research Bigfoot?
Yeah. Great question. So I grew up in West Virginia, and it was funny because, we would always hear about Bigfoot and we thought it was a joke.
Mm.
And we thought it was just the parents' way of scaring us to not go in the woods. So we didn't listen. And so after moving away from West Virginia and I moved to Florida, and this was in the 90s, early 90s, there was a report on the news about a Bigfoot sighting in the Ocala National Forest. And I'm going, wait a minute, what? I'm like, is that a joke? And they're like, I mean, it was a full report.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's more to this. So I started doing some research. And, it wasn't aggressive research. It was more like, let me look into this. Let me watch this video. Let me look at this interview. And then as time went on, Finding Bigfoot came out. And then that piqued my interest even more, that people were out in the field doing this and showing us what to do, what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, of course, at that time I had small children. I can't really go off into the forest with small children. That doesn't work very well. And so as my kids got older, I was like, I really want to pursue this even more. So in late spring of 2024, I attended the Ocala Bigfoot Conference, got a VIP ticket, and went by myself. And I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to learn as much as I can from locals, anybody attending. And as a bonus, there's all these people that are going to be speakers that I have been following for years, who I wildly admire. And I'm going to meet them as well. Well, I go to the VIP dinner and I meet all these folks, and everybody is of the like mind, like, yeah, it's out there, and I've done this, and I'm talking to everybody. And that's where I met Adam Davies, who I now work with. I've met RPG, which that's when our friendship, started. And then Rusta Ford, I met Ken Gerhard. So I met all these incredible people, and then we just all stayed in touch, and for the most part. And then as time went on, I was doing my own investigative work in the field here in Florida, and I was putting videos out and documenting what I found, and just different things. And then lo and behold, February of 2025 is when Adam called me, and he said, hey, we're doing this film about two unsolved missing person cases out of the Smoky Mountains. Would you be interested in filming with us? Because we would really like somebody that, knows what they're doing to come out with us. And I'm like, absolutely. And they're like, can you be in the Smoky Mountains in 2 weeks? I'm like, yeah. So lo and behold, that's how The Vanished became about. And that was probably one of the most incredible experiences I've had. Just being in the forest with someone like Adam, who has been all over the world, who has just his knowledge base is far greater than anybody I've ever met. And then what we experienced in the field, that was profound. And that's all in the film. Every bit of it's in the film.
Yeah, and the Vanished really, it gives a whole different perspective.
Yeah, it does.
In reference to what we think that we know,
yeah,
as opposed to what's actually in the film and what's talked about.
Correct.
So it amazes me, and I talk to my wife all the time, and my wife's like, "Oh God, we're talking about Bigfoot again," but she's on the fence.
Yeah,
she doesn't not believe, but she's right there on the fence. But so and I said to her, I was like, there are too many similarities of reports.
Yeah.
Worldwide. I mean, we're not even just talking about the United States.
No,
we're
worldwide.
talking about Nepal and Australia, where I think is the Yowie in Australia, and just all these. Everywhere you go, pretty much almost on every continent, somebody has some type of story or report of a bipedal primate, right? And it's like it's too much of a coincidence. There's no such thing as a coincidence in this, because not everybody in the world could be in on it.
No, I know, and it's the similarities are. I mean, you can't ignore that. And then you have these bipedal hominid, primate-like entities walking around, and they are hidden so well. They go in places where people don't go. They hide in caves or wherever that, a different realm, whatever the thought process is. And you go out and you hope for the best, but most of the time when you go out and explore, you're not going to find anything. You may find a little bit of evidence, but for all the times that we have had encounters or some sort of evidence, that's 1 out of maybe every 15 times that we go out. So it's not, you've got to really do your research. You have to be in the right mindset as well. And what we have found, and we did another experiment where we were, there were 2 teams. The first team went in, non-aggressive, just checking out. And it was a known hotspot. And we knew that there was something there. We could feel that energy in this area. We're like, we know something's there. And we went in with, it was myself and Adam and Greg Ogles, Martin Groves, and Melissa Adair. And we were like, there's something here. And so then 10 minutes later, we had a team of 3 move in aggressively as security, like full military gear, long guns. And then all of a sudden the activity halted. And that tells me they're very well aware of what is a threat and what isn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of hunters go out like, I haven't seen anything. Well, no, you're carrying guns. You're going in with full gear. You're going in an aggressive manner, whether they feel it's aggressive or not. But these entities, any type of cryptid is not going to stick around.
Yeah.
If I go in jeans and a shirt and maybe a little backpack and a flashlight, they're going to be like, she's not a threat. I'm going to have more of an opportunity to see that than somebody in full gear.
Yeah.
And that's one of the experiments that we did, like, all the activity stopped as soon as they saw these guys. So now we know if these guys come with us, not necessarily the guys, but in the manner that in which they presented themselves, we can't have that. So going forward, we only investigate in regular street clothes.
Yeah.
Nothing with any camouflage.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. And you know, again, you know, bringing up my wife, I was actually we were talking about this yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, the day before yesterday. Is that I see so many people posting on social media, and I've even gotten tons of people who have sent me emails of supposed evidence, videos or photos or whatnot, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw Bigfoot and I got a photo of it or I got a video of it, and you know, I circled it on the," and it's like 9 out of 10 times it's kind of like that the pareidolia thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your mind makes you think you're seeing something that you're not actually seeing, and so you know people. They're so quick to jump on the bandwagon of Class A sightings. Yeah. And, you know, you said it yourself, like maybe 1 out of 15 times out, you're going to actually experience something or find something. It's not something you're going to find like every single day. You're finding like 30 or 40 footprints and you're hearing all these tree knocks and howls and whistles. And it just blows my mind how many people are just so quick to jump on this wagon.
Yep. They're like, that's a Bigfoot. I know it is. It's like, you know, I have the perfect story for that. I went out and did a solo camping trip in the Everglades. And I was looking for the skunk ape and I wanted to make myself look vulnerable. I had bear spray, I had a knife, and that was literally it in my tent. And the first night, I'm laying there and I was woken up about 1:30 in the morning to chirping, like a bird chirping. And I'm like, that's not right. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So I'm laying there very still. And then all of a sudden I hear these large footsteps right beside my tent. And then it sounded like a small toddler trying to talk, but like garbled. And then by the time I sat up so carefully so I wouldn't make a sound, it was gone. So the next morning I started talking to a few of the locals. They're like, "Oh, that was a skunk ape," you know, and they were on the team of skunk apes are everywhere. And I'm going, I would prefer to talk to somebody. So one of the ladies there hooked me up with a biologist that's local to that area. And I told her what happened. She goes, "You had a male Florida panther in heat come into your camp."
Yeah. Christina Wilson, I think, is the young lady that's down there.
So it was just crazy. I was like, oh my God. So needless to say, it was a Florida panther, but you have folks going, that was a skunk ape. Are you sure? Because let's rule out all the other local animals that make these noises. And so
Yeah.
a friend of mine, Dr. Kevin Wiltz, he runs a large cat refuge just south of Orlando. And I texted him after I talked to the biologist and I said, hey, listen, this is what happened. He goes, oh, that's definitely a Florida panther in heat, a male one. He goes, when my male Florida panther, it goes into heat, he chirps like a little Tweety bird. He's like, it's the weirdest thing. So just, sometimes you just need to really look at everything as a whole. And, when we went to the Smoky Mountains and went in and did all the investigations, we had to look at what the local animals were. What are the local cryptids? Where are the sightings at? What is really happening? And then you go in, and the best way to go in is have no expectations of what you're going to find. Because if you go in looking for Bigfoot, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find it and you're going to miss such incredible evidence of all these other things, and you're going to be totally missing. So we went in going, let's look at literally everything. And that's what we did. And we found orbs, fairy lights, disembodied voices. We found things within the Cherokee lore that you read about, and we found it. We have it documented on film. So it was really a cool experience.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of different sounds and stuff, obviously, especially here in Florida, it's so easy to mix up natural wildlife.
Yeah.
And last week I had Steve Demore on. He's a wildlife expert and really good friend of mine. I think I actually introduced you last Saturday to Steve.
Yeah.
And super nice guy, very knowledgeable on wildlife. And we basically, he had said, you can't, you get these people that, especially down here in Florida, they hear like these low frequency growls and stuff like that, and right away, people who are, like you said, they're on the Bigfoot train, like, oh my gosh, that's gotta be a Bigfoot, and it's like 9 out of 10 times it's an alligator.
Yeah,
because alligators make that low frequency,
they sure do.
And it's like you're too quick to jump to this, right? So, right. But knowing, and I think you hit the nail on the head, knowing the local wildlife before you even go in the woods, and researching what is common in those areas is very essential, because then otherwise anything and everything you hear is going to be Bigfoot in your mind.
Absolutely. And, your mind will play tricks on you.
Right. And so using sound, so we've heard different howls that supposedly that Bigfoot uses, right, to communicate. But and one of the things that we can kind of fall back on is the Sierra Sounds. It's a very well known, very well documented Bigfoot communication, and so with knowing the wildlife, the general everyday wildlife, as opposed to what we know about Bigfoot and how it communicates, how often would you say people get it wrong when it comes to howls and all? How often do people get it wrong instead of getting it right?
Oh gosh, more often than not. Because you could go out, and if you're in an area, let's say you're in a national park, and you start doing howls, and you get a howl back, who's to say that howl isn't another human doing the same research that you're doing? Mm-hmm. That's why I don't like doing howls, because you don't know what you're getting back. And there is no proven way, unless you are so remote and nobody else is out there, that you can then say, you can just hide, I already know there's nobody out here, that's got to be a squatch howl, because you have other things out there that will howl back, including humans that can mimic that very well, or even a recording. How
Yeah,
often have we gone out with a giant recorder with howls trying to, get something to respond, and so unless you have a howl and something coming at you and you're like, holy cow, this is big,
yeah,
and you're seeing something, yeah, I don't rely on the howls.
yeah. And we've all done it, right? We have recorded howls, and we throw it out there on Bluetooth speakers, and we're hoping for something, and we hear something, but it's like, all right, well, what was it?
Yeah,
Was it a
right.
Bigfoot? Was it a fox? Was it a bobcat?
Yeah.
Um, and you had mentioned earlier when you were doing a solo investigation down in the Everglades that you heard what sounded like a child, right?
Hmm.
And so, uh, funny thing. So, um, the one time we were actually out um, near Osteen, and we were doing a daytime investigation there, and on both sides of the road, it's a dirt road. It's out in the sticks, and so on both sides it's like all swamp,
Hmm.
and so there's a little patch of dry ground here, a little patch of dry ground there, but mostly it's pretty much all wet. And so all of a sudden we started really hearing like heavy footsteps. We couldn't see anything, and I've seen black bears, I've seen Florida panthers, I've seen a lot of wildlife, and I'm really good at picking stuff out in the woods because I grew up in the woods, and so I couldn't see anything. Nobody could see it, but we heard it.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, we can't explain that. That's not a normal person's walk, for one, and two, nobody's going to be brave enough to walk in that, you know.
Right.
And well, because on the one side of the bridge, on the left side of the bridge, there was actually a bloated hog, a dead bloated hog. And there was
Oh,
flies everywhere. So I'm like, oh well, I mean that's good eating for a squatch, right? Like
yeah, it
we're in
is.
the right area. But but then we started hearing these heavy footprints, and it's like nobody's walking around in these waters. There's water moccasins and God knows what else is in there.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't even go in there with my waterproof hiking boots. you
Yeah,
know,
because
um,
it's here in Florida, we just don't have alligators. We have crocodiles. We have boa constrictors. We have pythons. We have all kinds of native and non-native animals that can really
yeah.
hurt you.
Oh yeah. So we were out there, and it got to the point where we got the really creepy, eerie feeling like something or somebody was watching us. We couldn't see who it was. We couldn't see anything, but we knew something was watching us,
Hmm.
and it just got really. It kind of felt like we were getting painted back into a corner,
Hmm.
and we were like, "All right, I think maybe we need to back out of here." Like we were starting to get the feeling like we were not welcome there,
Yeah.
and you know, luckily, Saved by the Bell, right in Florida in the summertime is, you know, one of our famous afternoon thunderstorms started rolling in. It started getting really dark, and just before it opened up, downpour, we were like, I think it's time to leave. And then we packed up our stuff, and as soon as we got in the trucks, it just rained. I was like, yeah, it's
Oh.
perfect timing. So, but and I was talking with somebody, and I know I'm kind of flip flopping back and forth here, but I was talking with somebody, and there's a lot of Native American belief that Bigfoot have the ability of telepathy.
Hmm.
So somebody had said to me, well, could it be possible that maybe, and this is a long stretch, but I'm going to throw it out there for the sake of content. Somebody said, well, maybe Bigfoot conjured it telepathically or something like that, and that was their way of trying to get you out of their area. And so I kind of looked at that, and I was like, I think you watched too much Harry and the Hendersons. Phenomenal movie, though, hands down one of my all-time favorite movies. But in general, there's a lot of Native American beliefs and folklore when it comes to Bigfoot, dating back centuries.
Yeah.
But what would be your overall take on the belief that Bigfoot communicates, not even just Bigfoot to Bigfoot, but Bigfoot to people telepathically?
I believe that they do have an ability to not just, I don't want to say telepathically, like, you hear about mind speak, which I've never experienced that, so I can't speak to it. But I have been what I referred to, and this is not a technical term by no means, but scanned. We were in a group setting, and we knew that there was a family of Bigfoot in the area. And we wanted just to sit around a little campfire, just a few of us, and see if they would come in out of curiosity. And we were way out in the middle of nowhere. And so they came in, we heard them creeping in. We had some microphones laid out later on where you could hear them breathe. And then they were going person by person, and you could feel them. You could feel their energy. And they stayed on the females longer than the men. So the women got really scanned. Like, I want to check you out. What are you?
Right.
And they really kind of just, and I mean, scan is not the right word. It was almost like they were like, what are you? And you could feel them, the energy pressing in on you. And then they would move to the next person. But when they got to a man, it was really quick. When they got to a woman, they stayed on us for a good minute or two. And then once they realized, okay, they're okay, they moved down to the lake. And then they came back about an hour later and were hanging out with us again, but in the forest. We never saw them. There was no visual confirmation, but you could feel their energy. You could hear a little bit, but we heard that. We had that microphone, that sensitive microphone out there where you heard them breathing.
Yeah. Well, and I think, something, and I'm not saying this definitively, but, if you look at Expedition Bigfoot Season 1, I think something similar to along those lines actually happened to RPG, because if you remember when he first got there, I think it was night 1 in camp, and like he had to be, I don't know if he was flown out or whatever the case was, but he wasn't even like first night, and he was done.
Yeah. I talked to his aunt, and she goes, Nat, when we saw that on TV, we all got just sick. We were devastated. We didn't know what was going on. Of course, they knew he was okay because it aired after, but she goes, to actually see it, we were terrified. Yeah. And when I have been out, and I have had team members get physically ill with headaches, blurred vision, nausea, unable to really focus. And I think they target certain people. And they're like, what are you? What's going on? And some people are more sensitive to it than others.
Yeah, and knowing RPG, to see him actually bow out like that.
Oh, you knew he was sick.
You knew he was sick, because it's like, that's not that, RPG, like he's just gung ho, like he just goes, and regardless of how he feels, like he just goes.
Yeah.
And so, knowing him more now than I did then, it's like, yeah, something was definitely off. Something was going on there. So,
yeah, because he's in the forest all the time.
Oh yeah,
all the time with his kids. He goes out with many groups in Florida. And so for him to bow out like that, something profound happened. He was in
Yeah.
distress. And that happens sometimes. You know, if they don't want you there, they're going to target you.
Yeah.
But we did another experiment out in the forest where we were getting some, I don't want to say growling. It was more, you had the overwhelming sense that something was not just there and watching you, but it was pure anxiety and stress. And you just felt it. You had knots. Everybody had knots in their stomach from it. And so Martin Grove says, Nat, walk up the hill by yourself. And I'm like, what? And he just starts singing. I'm like, you want me to do what? And so Melissa went with me because I was like, going up there by myself in the middle of nowhere where it's a heightened activity and a place known for activity. So
karaoke night in the woods.
Right. So I was like, I started singing the only song that I could think of at that moment was You Are My Sunshine. And I started singing that. And all of a sudden, the whole vibe just went, it got very calm. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, where'd they go? They're like, and Martin goes, they're still here, but they're just, you calmed them down. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, they're not used to female investigators. You're a female. You're more of a mother nurturing kind of energy. You come in and start singing a nice little song, and they just calmed right down like, oh, they're okay. So whenever I would walk, when we were in base camp, when I would walk to the little outhouse, so to speak, it was far away, especially in the dark, and you're a sitting duck. You're vulnerable. If anything wanted to get you, it would get you. So I would sing all the way down there, and I'd sing all the way back, so they would feel like I'm not a threat. And it was always a very calm, peaceful walk, and nothing. After that first night that I got growled at down there, I started singing. Nothing happened. They were very calm. They're like, "Oh, she's okay."
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you will not catch me doing karaoke hour in a Sasquatch research investigation, but to each their own.
Yeah.
They would probably look at me and be like, "Oh, we need to eat him. Put him on a spin off."
So I mean, believe me, I am not a singer, by no means. But whatever I did worked. It helped them feel calm and serene and just be like, okay, you're not a bad person. You're not going to threaten me.
Yeah.
So
and it's all about perspective.
That's something else I shared.
Yeah. Well, and it's all in presentation. Like if you're, and I've heard this from numerous people, like if you go in with the premise of, and I've actually heard a few people say, when you go into the woods, before you do anything, talk to them. Let them know the reason why you're there, and not just walk into the woods and all willy nilly. But when you go in, even if you think you're talking to yourself, just state your intentions.
Yeah, very much. State your intentions, and in your mind, be very calm.
Mm-hmm.
And know that you're going in for a positive reason. Because if you go in completely stressed, filled with anxiety, it's not going to go well. You've got to go in with the intention that you're there as a peaceful person, as a peaceful entity, respecting the land, respecting their space, respecting, their way of life. And that that you're an outsider walking in as a guest. And, whenever I go in my mind or even out loud, I'll say, thank you for allowing me to be on your land.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that they know that they're respected.
Yeah. So, we're running short on time here, but real quick. Relic Films. Kind of tell us briefly about Relic Films and what you guys are doing right now with it.
Yeah. So Relic Films, based out of Birmingham, Alabama, and a smattering of other places, we are bringing documentaries, and it's 100% honest. It's not scripted. It is all what we film in the field. And sometimes we have to do some research and bring the research to our viewers as to why we're doing what we're doing. And then The Vanished is out right now, streaming on Film Hub's Relay, and that is about 2 unsolved missing person cases. We do have Cryptic Expeditions, Land Between the Lakes, out on DVD. That's all about Bigfoot. And The Downy Booger is out as well. That was the original film about Bigfoot. Our next film that's being released in September is called The Awakened, and it is a lighthearted paranormal investigation that we did, which I absolutely fell in love with because it shows a different side of the paranormal investigations that we do. And it's none of the crap like, oh, when did you die? None of that. It's true, like, let's just hang out and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then we do have Return to Land Between the Lakes, Making Contact, which is the follow-up to Cryptic Expeditions. That's coming out in 2027. And that's going to be really cool. But I think the coolest part is we are going to start our own app on Roku. So we're going to have our own network, which is going to bring you Beyond the Ordinary, which is what I'm the executive producer on, which is a talk show. And we're going to start on season 2 here very shortly. We're going to bring you all kinds of great content and information. So be on the lookout for that the next 2 months.
I definitely will.
Thank you.
So it was wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, so insightful. And, I know myself and, a few others are really looking forward to the new content that you guys have coming out. Again, I can't stress enough for anybody who's watching or will watch, check out The Vanishing. It is so insightful, and it'll make you see things from a hugely different perspective.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. It'll take you down a path that you didn't think that you were going to go on.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally unexpected.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Nat.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being on. It was amazing. And I know that I will have my booth up there next year, so you better be there.
Yes, of course.
And I'm actually going to be on the round table next year. So I was actually talking with RPG about it last Saturday. I was like, no, I want to be on the round table next year.
Absolutely.
So I'm definitely going to do that.
That's going to be so cool.
Yeah, but that's all the time we have for Echoes of the Timberline. I just want to thank everybody who has joined us. I'm still learning this system, so I apologize. So I don't know who's watching, who isn't, but this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Echoes of the Timberline. You can catch it and watch it any other time, along with the other podcast episodes that we have. Thank you guys so much for everybody joining in. Hope everybody has a great night. Be safe. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I'm going to SeaWorld tomorrow for my very first time.
Stay hydrated, my friend.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm going to hide under the shades most of the day.
Yeah.
But, and as always, keep on squatching. Catch you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.